Hey guys, I'm going to show you how to make this knife sheath with a belt loop and these brass rivets. I used a rough template to cut out a piece of leather, and this leather is about 5 millimeters thick, so the knife is quite sharp to do this in one pass. I'm cutting out a V groove in the middle of that piece of leather to make folding the sheath over easier. Then with the knife, I would use it to eyeball roughly what the shape of the sheath should be. Now this curve is kind of rough, so I'll just go back in and use a French curve to define the curve better. In general, scoring cut is best for something this thick and for detailed curves like these. Punching holes to define the belt loop makes it wear a little bit better. And beveling the edges here makes the loop break in a little bit faster. The stitch groove here makes the thread wear better. Most of the sheath is sewn together, but a little bit of it is laced together, so I'm using a punch here to get the holes in. Thinning out the edges before sewing two pieces of leather together makes the sewing process a lot easier and faster. And in this case, that's exactly what I did for most of the sheath. I didn't want the belt loop or the flesh side of the leather to be shown, so I covered it up with a piece of leather, and that piece of leather is going to get sewn on. In any leather sewing project, I would use at least two awls. The first one is to mark out where all the holes should be. Before enlarging the holes for sewing, I've soaked the leather, and then I'm going to fold it over and just clamp it down for about an hour or so it would hold the shape. Then I'm just enlarging the holes using two different awls. The bigger holes will receive 2 lines of stitching, and the smaller holes will receive just 1 line of stitching. The actual sewing part of sewing leather is very easy to do. If you would like more information on how to do this stitching pattern, just follow the link in the description. So with the knife in and the sheath still very wet, I'm going to go ahead and shape the parts that's going to hold the handle. Here I'm just using a metal spoon tool. I think a regular spoon would work just fine. Once the sheath is thoroughly dried, go ahead and trim off all the excess leather or any overflow of glue. In this case, the only part that had the glue on it was the part that was used to cover up the belt loop. Once I dyed the edge of the leather, I thought this project would be finished, but I decided to try something new. I decided to try a brass rivet. This involves drilling holes slightly smaller than the brass themselves, and the brass piece is about a millimeter or so longer or thicker than the piece of leather. Then all it takes now is a little bit of careful hammering to get the head to seat. Be careful not to hammer too much because the heads of these rivets will break. To finish the edge, I'm just applying a little bit of beeswax, and I'm heating up an iron to melt the wax. The iron needs to get about 185 degrees Fahrenheit or so to start melting the wax. At this point, the leather is fairly hard from all the water, so the last step is to add some neatsfoot oil, and this is really going to make the leather pliable and soft. The last thing that I did was to braid the edge. But the actual braiding of that edge is too small to be filmed efficiently. So if you're interested in learning how to do that braid, go ahead and click the link in the description. You'll find me doing that exact same braid step by step on a much larger scale using this piece of wood. On our third pass, we're going to pass through all the even numbers. Well, I hope you enjoyed the sheath, and I hope to see you again next time.